gymnast and one of the best that we have in the world, is going to do well here. He is going to set the tempo for sure.
The final heat is underway, and we mentioned the overall standings, still waiting on those to update after event number 5. But one thing we are relatively sure of is that Pat Vellner is still in first place comfortably right now.
You know, you see all these guys out here going so hard and so fast. They really need to make sure that they are pacing these first parts. They have to save those shoulders. That's that first key that we talk about. So much shoulder fatigue goes into this. So don't rush or kill yourself, because, again, you got to split. You got to have that negative split. I mean, you have to be fast on that second 5 rounds, and you can really do a lot of damage to yourself if you're not careful.
Sager is through round number 1, as is Phil Toon. Next to him, there goes Tim Paulson, and Sager back to work on his second round of 15 handstand push-ups. Overhead squat weight 205 for the men here in the opening part, the opening 5 rounds of this event.
I see Phil Toon on the left-hand side of your screen with that white t-shirt and the black shorts. He's really moving quickly on those handstand push-ups. He needs to be careful not to go too far into the red. Cole got a no rep, but again, looks nice and relaxed. You saw him take that nice deep breath. He's trying to bring down that heart rate. And I love the fact that he went clean and jerk on that. Look at that, to the front rack and then overhead. Very safe.
Tim Paulson, speaking of heart rate, wearing one of the Whoop monitors. He's at 152 beats per minute. Paulson started the day in 7th place overall. His best finish 6th in Event 3, the MIA Bar Complex.
He also decided to go with that wide grip, clean and then jerk up overhead. Again, it's not the best movement if you need to do clean and jerk, but if you are trying to have a safe, shoulder protected shoulder overhead, I think it's a great position to do that. Get in a great position without taking the risk.
Cole Sager on the right, Phil Toon on the left. They are your 2 leaders right now in the heat. Pat Vellner is on the far left side. Vellner just needs to avoid disaster here in this event in order to hang on to the overall lead. Sager back to the barbell now, along with Phil Toon.
Look at that, right up overhead.
Now, no surprise that this guy, Colton Mertens, is towards the front. When it comes to handstand push-ups, he's one of the fastest.
I think you were shying away of wanting to say why, though, he was one of the fastest. One of the things with any sort of gymnastic movement or squat movements like this is range of motion. One of the things that in a lot of the movements is going to be a tough part for him is that range of motion. He's a shorter guy. But when you have handstand push-ups, look at that. Very fast, very quick. And it doesn't take nearly as much energy for him to go through that shorter range of motion than it does with everybody else.
Saxon Panchik entered the day in 14th place overall. He had a really good event in event number 5. And he is looking to move his way possibly into the top 10, depending on the way things shake out in the overall standings after event 5 and then after this event, of course.
You know, Saxon looked real strong when he did that nice snatch up overhead. I didn't see a foot bobble. I didn't see anything like that at all. And again, look at the way he's transitioning from one end of the field to the other end of the field. Knows exactly how hard he needs to push. Just relaxing.
And it's happened again. That's Spencer Panchik. Spencer and Scott Panchik right next to each other on the competition floor. Saxon is at the other end, so that is Spencer Panchik. But Spencer was right next to his brother in the overall standings coming into the day. 13th place overall. He was only 10 points ahead of Saxon heading into event number 5. Scott and Spencer Panchik right next to each other. Scott in the all black. Now Spencer off the wall.
Look at the confidence. Right off the wall, right to the bar, and straight up overhead. Beautiful lift by Spencer.
There is his brother Saxon on the upper left-hand part of your screen. Saxon is next to Colton Mertens, who's towards the front of the pack here. And now Spencer is done. And he will move on to the second half of this event. The 5 rounds of the 5 muscle-ups and the 15 overhead squats with the weight dropping now to 115. Phil Toon has also finished out the first 5 rounds here, and he's going back to the rings along with Spencer Panchik. So Toon opening up the second half of this event. Nick Matthew has the time to beat 11:52 from heat number 1.
And I was really interested to see what that would look like on Toon for that first set of ring muscle-ups. I don't see him looking very fatigued at all. Granted, we got 5 rounds of these, but we've just done 5 rounds of pushing, so you usually see some sort of a hiccup somewhere, and I didn't see anything.
There's Uldis Ubniks, as Colton Mertens is also on to the second part of this event, and he has a really great pace on those overhead squats. Mertens looking to track down Spencer Panchik and Phil Toon for the lead in the heat.
We'll see what sort of transition speed he has between going from the barbell, making his way back, and how long it takes for him to get up on those rings.
Colton Mertens heading back to the rings, and a lot of us are going to be heading back to the competition floor, so to speak. The Open is right around the corner, just about a month away before we get started with that. You can register now at open.crossfit.com.
And that, talked about what kind of transition he was going to have. Very quick. Walked straight back, jumped right up, got right through them. I think he has a good shot of catching Toon just based on the range of motion that he's luckily able to deal with on these. And I love that transition speed. Look at that.
Mertens getting right into those overhead squats. 15 reps he has to complete to close out his round. Your top 2 men are on the screen right now. On the left, Colton Mertens. On the right, Phil Toon. And both of them just a really fast pace with the barbell. Mertens done just ahead of Toon. Mertens and Toon done with 2 of the 5 rounds, and now starting round number 3 of the 5 muscle-ups and the 15 overhead squats.
Colton Mertens with that quick turnaround right up to those rings and getting to work. Look, see, now that's what we were talking about, the transition. Phil Toon, he walked back there a little bit more hesitant, a little bit slower. Now he's thinking about it, with Colton Mertens just going for it.
Phil Toon is right next to Pat Vellner. Again, Vellner has built himself a pretty decent lead, we think, heading into this event. He had a 36-point lead, 37-point lead coming into the day. Sorry, I meant that a 27-point lead coming into the day. But that did widen after the last event. Mertens is just about done with round 3 here. Only one man in heat number 1 was able to complete the entirety of the work inside the 12 minutes. That was Nick Matthew, and he only had 8 seconds to spare. Did it in 11:52.
And Toon sitting up in those top 3 coming into today didn't have a very good swim at all. It looked like, again, we don't know what the score is there, but he had a rough last event. So this is something that he really needs to do and really push the tempo. It's impressive that he's in front of Pat Vellner, though. I'm shocked at that, honestly. His tempo on those squats is just incredible.
Well, Mertens is really challenging that top time with the pace he has right now.
Pat Vellner right in the mix. This is what we talk about. Like, he just doesn't get nervous about people being in front of him. He knows he's going to eat them down. Everyone else is trying to stay ahead, and Pat just kind of makes his way through there.
Toon and Vellner right next to each other on the floor. Phil Toon at one point was the overall leader in this competition. Colton Mertens, I think, has 1 round to go here. 5th and final round for Colton Mertens, just assaulting Nick Matthews' top mark of 11:52.
Look at that. He hasn't slowed down. So much capacity. So much speed and power in those movements too. Look at that. My goodness.
No problem, those final 5 muscle-ups for Colton Mertens, and now back to the barbell for the final time. And this should just be a stroll for him, because he has the event win all but locked up right now.
solid movement, just making his way through those, making every single one of those reps count.
Colton Mertens trying to go sub 10 and earns 100 points with a casual tap of the buzzer.
That was the least exciting depression of the button I've ever seen.
Now Phil Toon looking to lock up second place in the event. He has plenty of time because remember, Nick Matthews' time is now second best. Scott Panchik is going to take second in the event as he gets it in 10:19. Panchik still has some fight left, and now he's going to turn to his brother Spencer and try to help him across the finish line. Phil Toon is across. Spencer Panchik is in. Still more than a minute to go before we hit the top time. Pat Vellner still has a round to go.
I'm a little shocked by that. It's almost like Pat just doesn't think it's like, I'm all right.
Sager is in. Well, Toon is going to pick up some ground that he lost to Vellner in the last event. But remember, it was a 27-point deficit that Vellner had at the beginning of the day. He was able to widen that in the last event as Uldis Upniks comes across. We just don't know by how much, and now we got to figure out how many points Phil Toon regained here, as we have now just 30 seconds to go before we hit the time cap, and Pat Vellner is looking to get inside of that if he can complete these 15 overhead squats. This is about the pace that Nick Matthew was on when he got to the barbell.
Which wasn't a bad score. I mean, it wasn't a bad time at all.
And he had a really good pace as well.
Yeah, this seems uncharacteristic of Pat. I'm a little shocked by that.
Tim Paulson closes out his fourth round. Pat Vellner is now in. So with a second to spare, Pat Vellner gets across the finish line. So Phil Toon will carve into the overall lead. We'll have to wait and see by how much. But Pat Vellner looks like he will be the overall leader heading into the final two events on day number 4, the fourth and final day of competition. But that man, Colton Mertens, just a minor inconvenience for him out there.
Oh, man, that was a beautiful.